Today is April 16th, 2026, and we are at the Foley Satellite Courthouse Commission Office. And today we are conducting an oral history interview of Baldwin County Commissioner Charles Gruber. The purpose of these oral history interviews are to document the experiences and public service of individuals and their part in our Baldwin County history and what role that they play. Thank you, Commissioner Gruber, for meeting with us today.
You're quite welcome. And I think I'm going to enjoy this very much.
Awesome. Well, you and I have already talked. I'm going to just ask you a series of questions and just respond as you feel comfortable doing so, okay?
Yeah. Oh, I will. Yep.
Okay. Well, what is your current role with Baldwin County?
I am right now I'm the finance chairman for this year, which is vice chairman as well. So, it's very rewarding to be able to hold them roles and do that.
Well, how many years have you served Baldwin County and in what capacities?
I'm on my 20th year right now.
As a commissioner?
As a commissioner.
Okay. And how many years in total? In
total, I've had 50. I had 30 years with the Highway Department, landfill, and the State of Alabama Highway Department, and we'll get into that. Okay. How that comes into it, plays a big play into it.
Okay, well, let's go back to the beginning so we can understand how your journey started here with the commission. Tell us about your family and growing up in Baldwin County.
I was born and raised here in Baldwin County in Alberta, and that's been my home ever since. I had 4 brothers and sisters, and I've lost 1 brother. But I still have 1 brother and 2 sisters, and I'm married. I'll be married here 55 years coming this May.
Awesome.
And we've got 2 lovely children, a daughter and a son. My daughter, she lives here with us. She lives about a quarter mile down the road from us. We gave her some property so she could build a house, and my son, he lives in Birmingham, and so and I've got some of the best grandkids you'd want to know. I've got 2 grandsons that are engaged now. One just got engaged last weekend, and the other one is getting married in December. And I got 2 granddaughters. One is going to Mobile College, and the other one is at Reed State. Yeah. So and I've got a grandson that lives in Birmingham. He's 11, and he's a soccer player. And he loves soccer. So then I have the best of all is my great grandson. He is 6. And he's part of the part that I can really spoil and send home.
And I can see that excitement in your face when you talk about your family. That's a blessing, Commissioner Gruber. When you mentioned University of Mobile, I'm a graduate, so I'm an alumni of the University of Mobile.
Good.
So that's a great
school.
She's
playing volleyball there. She got a volleyball scholarship, and she's in her senior year. So. And she's probably going. I don't know if she's going to do her master's, but she needs to. We've told her she needs to go ahead, and do it.
Great school.
They want her to play volleyball anyway, so
why not?
She might as well,
Tell us, who was your greatest influence growing up in Baldwin County?
Golly,
Or what influenced you?
What influenced me basically was, this. I wanted. When I first started with the county, I was working for a construction company, building houses and digging footing, and we was working on a barn, building a barn, extension to a dairy barn, and that ground was so hard, it was as hard as this tabletop here. And we had to pickaxe the whole thing because it had shells in it to keep it from getting rid of money, and it was a project. I'm telling you, and that's kind of what pushed me, away from doing construction work into this. But it was kind of funny though. in a way, my very first day on the job, they came in, and I don't know if you can see that shovel right there in the middle there, what looks like a scoop shovel. They gave me a shovel like that and said, "You go with that truck right there. We're going to go sand some roads down in Gulf Shores." They were fixing to pave them, and we had to sand the prime so it wouldn't track. And I thought, "Oh my goodness, what have I got into here?" But it was very interesting. You know, we had a great time doing that, and then I got to do a lot of other things that I never have done in my life there with it, and so it was very rewarding, at that time. So,
Okay.
and and then shortly right after that, I got on the county. I'm not on the commission. I got on the city council
For Gulf
for the city of Alberta, for the town
Alberta,
of Alberta.
okay.
Yes. And so that was very interesting too. That was in '79 actually when that happened, and I started in '69, so it was 10 years later. But I got to do something, different change.
Okay.
I was asked to fulfill a term to finish the term out of a gentleman, Mr. Andy Jensen, who had passed away, and they asked me to fulfill his thing, and I did that until 2006.
Okay. And that was going to be my next question. How did these early experiences lead you into your position
Yeah.
with the county highway department? So
Yeah.
was it your time on the city council at
No,
Alberta?
actually, that started later on. I wanted to start out a career. I was looking to start a career, and I know I didn't want to go into construction all my life. And I thought, well, maybe the highway department would be a good one, because I come from a farm, and I liked equipment and stuff. So I thought, well, that'd be a good thing to get into. But my first day was not with equipment; it was with a shovel on the back of a dump truck.
Okay.
But it was enjoying. But yeah, those were the days, and we all pitched in, and we got what it took to get done. Now the part that really changed things was when in 1979 the state of Alabama, the state was maintaining at that time Baldwin County roads. The county did not have a road department at all.
Really?
No, they relied on the state to do all of their road work.
Okay.
And then in 1979, the legislation passed, that they were going to do away with what they called the captive counties. I think there was 9 of them or something like that. But anyway, but they gave being Baldwin County was as big as it was, they gave them until 1980 to start. So in 1980 is when the Baldwin County had their own road system, and now we're to where we're at today from 1980.
Okay, so you began work at the highway department.
With the state.
And what year was that when you began work with the
I
highway?
actually started in '69.
In '69 for the highway department.
For the highway department, yeah.
Wow.
State highway department,
And when did you?
and then in 1980 is when the county took over the road system.
Okay.
We had a choice to go between the county and the state. Well, I had made it up to an operator
Okay.
by that time, and the county was purchasing their very first piece of heavy equipment, new equipment, for its own highway department, and it was a great all. It was called the Badger 888. And I got to be the one who got to get the new piece of equipment.
Excited.
It was really exciting. It was a big old white machine, and it was something else. But it was a good machine, and the county made a good choice with it, But so it ended up very well with that,
So what were your roles at the highway department?
I
Did you
started
stay?
out as a laborer,
Okay.
and then I worked my way up to an operator.
Okay.
and then from an operator to a supervisor.
Wow. So
And
how
then
long were
from-
you a supervisor?
From 1984 until 95, 94, 95, somewhere in there.
Do you kind of remember the population for
Oh
Baldwin County
yeah,
around
it
that
wasn't
time?
much. It was maybe 50, maybe 80,000 people.
80,000 people. And how many employees did you supervise?
Well, we had 20 something at the Bay Minette. I got to go to Bay Minette.
Okay.
They asked me to come to Bay Minette and take over that barn up there.
Okay.
So I said, well, yeah. Also, but that was rewarding. Now that was really rewarding to me. Because I was used to being an equipment operator and everything else, and I walked into a situation, where the person up there had been removed, and they asked me to step in. So I said, well, yeah, I'll give it a try. And at that time, it was Charlie Stacks was the one who asked me to do it, and so I did, and it was kind of weird coming in there, because half the folks that was there liked the old supervisor, and some of them didn't, wasn't crazy about seeing somebody new come in. So it was interesting. So I let it go on for several weeks, just to see how things played out and get a feel of everything. And I called Charlie one morning on the way to work. I said, Charlie, you need to come by the office this morning. So we're going to have a meeting with all the employees. And I said, I'm going to talk to them. And so he met me there, and we talked to the employees, and I explained to him. I said, I said, look, folks, I'm here to do a job I'm asked to do, and I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do or have not done. And there was some snickering, how that goes. And I said, just remember, I'll be here if you need me. I'm gonna look out for you, every one of y'all. Well, it rocked on, and things seemed to be smoothing out. And I think the thing that really broke the camel's back is when we had a real bad flood.
Wow, which flood was that?
It was in 80 something, I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
But anyway, it washed part of the Green Jordan Road out.
Wow.
And they were out there trying to put some culverts in, and there was those short little 4-foot joints, and they were down in the hole, and they were struggling, with it. And I pulled up, and I seen they were struggling, so I just jumped in the water with them. And just said, well, let me show you how I would do it. And we got it all back together, and they just kind of looked back and said, well, you are right. You said you would, if we were in something, you'd be there.
That's awesome.
And from that day on, I think I earned their respect of the employees.
What was the infrastructure like for Baldwin County at that time?
It hadn't had a whole lot of improvement yet. Because it came from the state, and the state did all the maintenance work, on them. And, they didn't spend any extra money, because they spent what money that the county gave them from their gas taxes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they would, if they had a special project they wanted to do, they would do a special project. The roads back then were just, they were dirt road, most of them were dirt, and they did a few paving ones every once in a while, But it was very, very, very interesting, to be able to do that.
Well, if you had to tell us one accomplishment or project that you're most proud of during your time at Highway, what would that be?
Oh my goodness! With the Highway Department, the project with me would be, I guess it would be the landfill.
The landfill?
The landfill.
Here in Magnolia Springs?
I was I was asked, at that time, I had left being a supervisor and went to the project manager.
Okay.
And they asked me to go out there and help oversee that project, make sure it got done on time. And so, but that was the very first Subtitle D landfill to be put in Baldwin County.
Awesome.
And you know, it rained. We had the hurricane that year, and so it was a mess. And we was trying to get those liners put down, and we had to. I think it was Hurricane George came in and dumped that over 30-something inches of rain on that project, and the liner popped up and floated out, and it was like a big old whale in the middle of an ocean sitting out there. But we was able to work with the contractor, and when they got it down and got it sealed back up, and we got it running. And but that was kind of my first great big project like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what experience that you had in the highway department that shaped your understanding of county government?
Well, I guess it would be being working with the people. Was a big thing. Being a supervisor, being a weld person, being a labor and operator. You had to work with people. Plus, then when I got to be a supervisor, you had to be able to work with more people, and so it was, it was a learning curve, and to find out how actually the government worked. I thought I knew how it worked, but, it was a little bit different, and then me being on the city council, and at that time, in 94, I became the mayor of Alberta. So, and the two governments were completely different. I figured, well, it's a city, I can handle this, but when I got there and I said, whoop, this is going to be a little bit different story, because the cities can do basically what they want to do, and, they got the authority to do it. Where a county does not have any authority to do anything without saying, legislature, can I do this? And you got to get it passed through legislation to get it done. Okay. So I mean, that was a great big change for me. Just to having beg for everything you want. Because it didn't work as like it was. So, but it was still rewarding. To be able to do that.
Well, at some point, you decided I'm going to go all in into leadership. I mean, that's a big decision to decide to run for county.
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Yep.
So what urged you to do that?
Well, what really urged me was, I wanted to give back, because I had retired from the county, and I had went 30 years, and I said, well, I need to do something. And at that time, I was working for an engineering group, and we had just built the Foley Beach Express. The Foley Beach Express is what it was. And so I had the lower end, and that was my responsibility I was the inspector on that whole thing there. And when I got done, I was telling my boss, I said, I think I'd like to run for county commissioner. And he said, well, that is fantastic. So he encouraged me.
But what was that transition like? You've been in operations all of these years, going into leadership. So what was that transition?
Whew, that was a little bit different. The first while I sat there in the meetings and I watched and I listened, kept my mouth shut, and just try to learn what was going on. Mm-hmm. But I learned a lot, and that was the same year that we had did a comprehensive plan, or comprehensive plan, and it was good. It was a really good plan, and it got killed later on, because nobody wanted it, and it was that Horizon 2025, which I have a copy today, still in my desk here, that I refer back to every once in a while, just to see how accurate it was, what their projections were. And it was pretty accurate, But it was decided now that it was too strong. I guess you could say the word. Because it had like words like you shall instead of you may, and stuff like this. And it had some opposition from some of the rest of the commissioners, and they didn't like it. So they done away with it. They killed the plan. I was the only one that voted against it. Getting rid of it, because we had spent some good money on that. We spent over $200-something thousand. And we should have kept it and just amended is what we should have done instead of just throwing it out. It was thrown out.
And earlier you mentioned, okay, you decided to run for county commissioner, you had all this support, but was that hard? Were there opposition? What was that campaign and coming into this role?
Well, my first year I had 3 other people that was running against me.
Your first year? First term?
First
Oh,
term.
wow. And you won.
And I won.
What'd you do so amazing?
Well, I don't
What
know.
was it like?
I just, I treated people like I wanted to be treated, and that was my main thing, and I've kept it that way,
So that's your campaign slogan.
Yeah.
Treat people the way
Treat people the way you want to be
we
treated.
treat it. I can see that.
And as a matter of fact, several of the ones that that ran against me, later on, we all became good friends, and some of them, I got them put on boards, and they did very, very well on those committees that they were put on. So, I learned, that, you can always find something good in a person, that they're good at, and they worked out very, very well. So
That's a good philosophy.
yeah.
Okay, so once you were in that role, you had a front row seat to the county's growth and change. What was the first thing that you learned quickly?
That you can't do what you want to do. Learn that we cannot do what you want to do. Really,
Okay.
you got to work, with our legislatures and everything to get stuff done, because we don't have home rule. We can't make decisions without, if it requires anything that has to do with a fine or anything like that. We can do a fee, but we can't do a fine, and we can't really go out and draw up an ordinance, to regulate stuff like noise. We can't even do a simple noise ordinance. That has to be gone through the legislature.
Wow.
And and we tried to put it on the ballot one time, and it got rejected by the citizens. Said, nope, we don't want you telling us what to do. So, and now today, I get more calls about, you need to do something with this noise. And I said, look, the voters said no. And they said, well, they didn't know what they were talking about. But it was, and I think it was just the people were afraid that, that that the county might make them do something that they didn't really want to do. And that's not what it was about. It was about trying to make life a little bit better, for people that live here. Because you have a lot of people that have to go to work, and you have stuff out there until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and people can't get their rest and everything else, and,
Right.
but
Well, you've lived in Baldwin County your entire life.
my whole
correct?
life.
What are some of the changes that you've seen,
Oh my goodness.
in Baldwin County?
We have
now?
seen a lot, it's going back, starting out with the road system, that it was the biggest challenge, I guess, when the state was doing it, we didn't get a whole lot of support back from them. It was because the state was doing their stuff, and they would do stuff for the counties, but like I say, it cost the county to do it. And they didn't have a whole lot of money back then when they was doing this.
What was the budget like when you say back then?
It was terrible. As a matter of fact, the first year or so, the county was almost broke.
What year was that again?
That was in 80, 81,
Wow.
80, 82 and stuff like that.
We were in a financial strain at
We
that
were in
point.
financial strain because they had just taken this on, and I think there was like 20-something. They took on all the employees that was worked, with the highway department or didn't work with her, and they came to work for the county for the road system, and that was a big strain. You know, you all of a sudden you got your checkbook, and all of a sudden now you got to add, you know, 80 or 90 people to your checkbook.
Wow.
You know, that was a big deal.
How did we come out of that financial?
It was tough, and you know, and I have to give Commissioner Burt
Okay.
and that group, you know, a great big thank you, because they had creative ways and they were able to pull it off. You know, they had to go borrow some money and do stuff, but you know, they made it till today. You know,
That's
we are
awesome.
doing very, very well with our budgets. You
Well-
know, our first budget, you know, I think when I was on my first budget, it was like maybe, I believe, what was it, 100 and something thousand, you know, everything.
For
total.
Total?
Total,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
And then
And our budget today is like
it's
what?
248, somewhere in that, yeah.
What? Thousand?
248 million.
Million.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking we're in the millions now.
Yeah,
wow.
we was like 100, maybe 100 million before him, but it was, you know.
And how many employees did the county have
Oh my
during
goodness!
that time?
Oh well, they still had, you know, they had all the probate
Right.
was all in there before, and then they added, you know, let's see, it was 26 employees with the highway department, not counting the engineering staff and all that. So they had a pretty good thing.
Pretty good employment size.
Yeah. Plus, you know, they had the landfill that they had due to, and went in and started that. So you know, it was pretty big jump.
Well, right now we all hear all the time, news, social media about the growth in Baldwin County.
Yeah.
That's a significant topic.
It is.
How does that impact residents' life in Baldwin County? How's that?
Well, I know that it's upset some folks, you know, but you know, if you stop and you look back at the areas that it's being, the growth you're seeing it, you know, it's around the cities. You know, they've around the outside skirts of the towns, you know, and the towns promoted that a whole lot. You know, they wanted, you know, have some more population, and so they're the ones that, you know, really think we've had some subdivisions. We've got subdivisions too that we're adding too, but not at the fast pace that the cities are doing it.
Okay.
You know, Foley, I think, is probably the biggest one right now, you know, the fastest growing, and then still adding more. I think their planning commission is looking at another 100 units housing development now going in. So, I mean, and they're stretched way out into Bonsecour and all over, you know, so.
And you mentioned planning commission. You're serving on the planning commission, correct?
I did one time, yeah.
At one time, is that all of those documents?
That is our documents from that's 2 years worth of planning commission stuff that we had to do, you know. And I kept them, you know, because I wanted to go back and check
and keep it
and
for
look
reference.
reference and stuff. You know, somebody asked me something, well, I can tell them. But yeah, that's a lot of work right there, and our planning commission does a fantastic job. We've got some good folks in there.
And as your time right now as a Baldwin County Commissioner, I think I know, but I'm going to ask you for the purpose of this interview, the challenges is departmental guidance for the commission.
Mm-hmm.
Which department where you may have the most challenges for the commission as far as making decisions?
Well, I guess. Well,
Is it zoning, plant?
well, zoning is one. It plays a big part, you know, because we still have stuff to do with that one. You know, we oversee.
That's right.
You know, we don't do subdivisions, but we do zoning itself.
Right.
And we're going through that right now with areas of the county that are being inundated by stuff that people don't really want. And if zoning was enacted back when, they wouldn't have that problem if they have it right now.
Okay, so zoning, and I don't understand a lot about
Yeah.
zoning. I need to delve more into that. So planning and zoning are some of the tougher decisions
Yeah.
that the commission as a body may
yeah.
have to make
Well, and
decisions.
we get blamed for a lot of stuff, but we still have to go by
Correct.
rules and regulations.
That's right.
They're set forth. State sets forth standards, and we put our own standards with subdivision regulations and stuff like that. Zoning is the same way, and the commission really has zero to do with the initiation of zoning.
Okay.
It's all citizen driven because they have to go out and get a petition and petition the neighbors and everything in that district. And then it has to go to the probate judge, and the probate judge has to say, yep, these are all registered voters. Plus, they got the majority of the folks there, so yep, we'll call for a vote, and they do. And the probate judge sets the date, and once it's done, then it comes to us, and our planning department still has a lot of work to do with it. They have to select a committee from within that group of people that have asked for zoning, and they put the thing together and present it to the county, and the county just blesses it, basically.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you a whammy question.
Okay.
A big one, Commissioner Gruber.
Okay.
What is the most challenging decision you've ever had to make, or challenging issues that came before you, or came before the commission that you can recall during your time?
Well, I guess the biggest challenge that I've had was when we purchased the land for that's Novellis is on right now, our industrial, the mega site.
Oh, really? I think I can
Because
agree.
it was a big chunk. It was quite a bit of money, and stepping out, and buying property. People, criticizing us, say, "Oh, you're stupid. You shouldn't have done that. You wasted our money and everything else." But I looked at it as part of Bay Minette was dying on the vine. They didn't have much up there, as far as, all the industry was leaving. And they just didn't have anything, and people needed jobs. And so when we bought it, we said, well, there was, at the very first one, there was an automobile manufacturer that was looking at it. And that didn't work out because of the laws in China. The way they were trying to get their money, it didn't work out. So it it failed. And so what we were back and forth, we had presented it, the mega site, to several different groups, to look at it, and it always kind of fell short. And we took a trip to the Novellis plant. And we got off the plane and got there, and when I walked in that building, I said, you know what? This is the place. This is the kind of industry we need. It was good, clean industry, and the employees were fantastic. I mean, the ones that we talked to, and so they came back later on, and we got a proposal, and then you see what we got today.
I do.
They started out being a $2.8 million investment. Now it's up to, was it $5 billion?
Billions of dollars.
Billions would it be. So, I mean, that's a great big investment in Baldwin County. And, and the thing is, it's got good jobs. The jobs start out at $68,000. For a thing, and there's not many places in Baldwin County you can go that'll draw.
That's true.
$68,000 a year. So it's going to be very rewarding once they get this thing open. I know there's a lot of people who are upset with it, because it changed their life. But I think it's going to make it for the better, later on.
Well, Commissioner Gruber, you've been with the County Commission how many terms now?
Oh, golly, this is, like I say, this is my 1, 2, 3, 5th year, Yeah.
So 24 terms? 5
Yeah,
terms.
yeah.
Okay, I asked around, and you are the commissioner that's known as the commissioner for the employees and for the people.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gruber, you're always for the employees
Yeah.
and for the people. Is that a true statement?
It is.
It is.
It's like I said in the beginning. I want to treat people like I want to be treated myself. I was an employee at one time, and I see some of the things that was happening back then. The way the employees were treated, and I just didn't think it was right. And the citizens is the same way,
That's right.
So I decided, well, that's what pushed me to run for it, to be, want to be a voice for the employees,
That's awesome.
And I think I've done a pretty good job.
You have. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You have. Okay, well, for people that don't know you, describe your leadership style. How do you lead?
Oh, wow. My leadership style. I really don't. I don't know what my style is.
You don't know what your style is?
No. I just want to do what's right. And I don't make promises, as you probably already know. I don't make promises. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do something. I'll do my best to see that it'll happen, or if it can happen. Mm-hmm. But there's no sense of upfront lying to a person. And say, well, yeah, I'll get that done, and knowing good and well that you've only got one vote.
This is true. Well, you served for 50 years.
Yeah.
You served for 50 years. So what committed you? What kept you committed to service for 50 years?
It was just the satisfaction of seeing stuff get done. We, like I say, this county's come a long, long, long way from when I first started in '69. It's come a long way. We've got so many things that's happened here in this county. We've added to our park system. We've purchased Live Oak Landing when it was available. That was one of our biggest accomplishments. Our first one is recreational. And then we've done several boat launches. We got the ICW, and then we just last year we did the County Route 6 one. We're improving all of these boat launches. We got the one in Lillian. We just added a big restroom facility to it, and so when we've got a fantastic parks department, they take care of all the stuff around here, our little parks that we have. Right now we're in the process of redoing a little park in Lillian. It was a Department of Interior that was done way back when Commissioner Jenkins was in office. They got this park, and so we're rebuilding it. It had an old building now, so we tore the building down. We're putting in a new pavilion, restroom facilities, and so it's going to make it nice for the community to have a little place that they can go to. And we've done some other ones. Up there in Perdita, we did that little one about a church up there. That little park there. So there's a lot of parks that we put in, and and our sales centers. We've added 2 sales centers. Before we had the one that was in Loxley. It was at the old school, and it didn't even have restroom facilities. They had portalettes outside.
So there's a lot of work has been done.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And with 50 years of service, you've done a lot of work. A lot. But is there one particular thing that stood out the most to you that you'll never forget, a moment or a story that you will never forget?
I guess it's when I became supervisor in Bay Minette. That's my most rewarding thing, because I changed a lot of people's minds on stuff. And when I left there to come back to Foley, they had to give me a little party, and they all gave me. I still have a little card at the house when they were going to miss me and everything else. So that was my most rewarding part, I think. Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay. Well, were there any people who mentored you along the way during your time as a commissioner?
I tried to work with every one of the commissioners that was in office, because well, Commissioner Burke, he had a lot of experience, and we didn't get along at some time because some of my stuff goes back to when I was with the highway department, still working, and some things that just happened. But we were still good friends, I think, at the very end when it all came to it, when I became commissioner, it was a little different story then, we appreciated each other because we both had experiences, of lots. And then, there was Commissioner Grunlow, he did a good job, Commissioner Bishop, and a bunch of other ones that was there too, and it's been, like I say, it's been rewarding.
And that's my next comment. Being a public servant, presenting public service is rewarding.
Yeah.
And it's also a big undertaking. Yeah. So if there's someone out there looking at this video who's considering public service, what advice would you give to them?
Just do what's right.
Okay.
And don't make promises. Don't make promises to people that you cannot fulfill. That's the worst thing you can do, is make a promise that, there's no way you can fulfill it. Okay. Because you're, like I say, you're just one person. You don't control anything. But, you do have some rewarding parts of it,
Well, as we reflect over your career, it naturally leads us into your legacy and how it will carry forward. Okay, so what do you hope that your legacy in Baldwin County?
Now, Felicia, I don't really know what my legacy is going to be.
What would you want it to be? What do you hope your legacy will be?
People will, when I go back and look at some of the things that we have accomplished, I'm part of a body.
That's right.
We have accomplished a lot in Baldwin County. And it's important that, you got to work together because, like I say, you can't do it yourself. It's all team players. It's the same way with our employees. They all work together. We've got some of the best employees you'd ever want to see.
I agree.
It's rewarding to know that, I'm part of that team, because they are very, very important. If it wasn't for them, Baldwin County wouldn't be where it's at today. Because, we sit there and we make policy, what to do, and they carry it out. So, I mean, they're very good stewards of the county as well.
I agree. I really do. Earlier you talked about your family. Your face just light up. So we know you love your family. I mean, and you want to leave a legacy for your family and for future generations. So how would you like your family, your great-grandchild, and future generations to remember the service that you gave to Baldwin County?
Well, I just hope that they remember that, I had to be dedicated to this job as well. Mm-hmm. And there was a few things I missed, during my tenure at that, and I just hope they realize, that the sacrifices that they made for me, will be rewarding later on for them.
So looking forward, the future, what do you hope for the future of Baldwin County? What are your hopes for our future?
Well, I hope that we continue to thrive and be a strong part of the government in the state of Alabama. Right now we're still part of the fastest growing counties.
Correct.
We've got a lot going on with the industries that's coming in here. We got tourism, that really draws people here. And, and we still have a lot of agriculture in this area.
Right.
I mean, we still, Baldwin County is the largest county in the state of Alabama. I mean, so it's got a lot of growing room for it yet. I hope it don't completely fill up, but, it's, as we add these amenities and stuff to the county, it makes it better for the citizens later on.
When you mentioned growth, I saw somewhere, I read that now we're one of the fastest growing in the nation, not only in the state, Baldwin County is.
Well,
And that's a blessing.
yeah.
So we are growing. So before we close, Commissioner Gruber, I'd like to ask you to reflect personally on everything that we've talked about and everything that your service has meant to you. So after 50 years of service, what has Baldwin County meant to you? What does it mean to you personally?
Personally, I get, well, I feel like that I have fulfilled my duty as a public servant to the citizens of Baldwin County. You know, they gave me my helped me with my retirement. So you know, I think that's very important. You know, and a lot of people don't know it, but when I took office with the county commission, I was retired from the county, and at that time, I lost half of my retirement.
Wow.
Because RSA would not let us draw our full salary. You know, draw our retirement, you know,
Wow.
and still get our pay.
Wow.
But, you know, so there's many years that we gave that up, and it just changed in the last few years. They changed it so that elected officials can continue to draw their retirement. You know, anybody else could come on here, and if they were retired, they could keep their retirement. It didn't stop them from their retirement, but RSA would not let them do it. So now they can, which is nice.
Okay, well, I'm pretty much out of questions, but is there anything that we have not discussed or anything that I haven't asked that you would like to share with the citizens of the county?
I just want to thank everyone, you know, for having the trust in me over all these years. You know, it's meant a lot to me to be able to serve on this commission. I just, you know, I'm going to miss it. I know. But it was time, you know, to let somebody else come in here, and I was having a few little health issues too. So, you know, and you know, if I can't give 110%, you know, I don't feel like I'm doing everything. So, but
That's who you are. Well, I'm going to give you just a few seconds to I want you to leave a closing message for all of the viewers.
I want y'all to just remember that Baldwin County's government is set up by legislation. And to change that government is going to take a legislative act to change it. Whether if you're not pleased with, you know, what you see today, the makeup of it, you can ask the legislation to have it restructured to what they think it should be. But you know, there's been some talks of, you know, just adding some more commissioners to it, you know, without getting the public's vote. And that's wrong. You know, that's not what government's about. You know, it's the people own their government, and they should have the say in what happens with it. You know, as far as, you know, what the body's built to consist of, you know. And, you know, there's a lot of things that are coming, and there's a lot of things with zoning that if you're unzoned, there's things that may happen that, you know, we have no control over. Because, you know, Alabama is a property rights state, and they give you the right to choose what you want to do with your property, you know, without being harassed by the government. So please remember, you know, just if you want to get into the government or into the politics of this, just please don't promise people stuff that you know you can't do. Thank you very much.
That's wise counsel. Commissioner Gruber, thank you so much for sharing your service and your story with us. I'm very honored to hear your story today, and I'm also honored to be able to preserve it for future generations like your grandbabies. I am. One of Baldwin County's greatest assets are its people.
It is.
And you are one of those great assets. So it has been an honor, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very
for your
much.
time.
Yeah. Right.